Historians of the future must chronicle two distinctly separate parts of those infamous and dastardly acts now lumped together in the public mind by the word Watergate. Once was the name of a luxury apartment office complex in the nation's capital, Watergate now represents a festered corruption which ruptured to reveal a new low in political opportunism in these United States of America. Completely devoid of moral restraint. The acts perpetrated represent an enthronement of the dubious maxim, the end justifies the means. Minds more clearly suited for political analyses than my own have written incisively and convincingly of the threat to the basic political process in America which Watergate posed. This, the perpetration, is but one part of Watergate, however, which historians must chronicle. The other part is the attempted cover-up. If the acts perpetrated were dastardly, the effort to cover them up when discovery threatened was worse. The studied, complex, and liberally financed scheme to cover up Watergate was equal to, or even worse than, the original act. Because here was an effort to avoid justice under law, of which the whole political process is rightly acclaimed handmaiden. The attempted cover-up, you see, would have exempted some because of their positions from the basic demands for justice when the law has been violated, which is the true guardian of democracy. So the attempted cover-up of Watergate will stand as one of the most severely soiled spots on the pages of the history of this nation under law, soon to celebrate its bicentennial. Another aborted cover-up ranks higher in importance, however, in the history of the struggle between good and evil. Are you going to pray with me? We are indebted to the evangelist who wrote the Gospel of Matthew for knowledge of that earlier Watergate. For he alone records the conspiracy among the Pharisees, the elders, and the centuries who stood guard duty at the tomb of the crucified Jesus to cover up the fact of his resurrection from the dead. Anxiously determined to forward any possible effort of the disciples to remove the dead body of Jesus from the tomb in order that they might claim his resurrection. The priests sought and obtained permission from Pilate to post military sentries to safeguard the tomb, having sealed the stone. I remember when I was a boy there in South Carolina, and we used to play up and down the railroad tracks. Sometimes more than playing, we used to pick up enough coal to keep it freezing. You don't know anything about that. We were greatly impressed with the seal that the railroad company put on boxcars after they had been filled. Now, the car was open, we'd get in and try to find some loose fruit or something that was left from the shipment. But if there were a seal on there, we were literally scared. We wouldn't dare touch that seal. And sometimes said, don't bother that, it's sealed. So having sealed the stone and left the soldiers on guard, the priest must have felt satisfied that the body of Jesus would be kept secure in its rock-hewn entombment. But how misplaced was their satisfaction? For how ill-matched is the power of men against the power of the Almighty God. He who had allowed the ravages of sin to have its way and had suffered his sinless Son to die a sinner's death in order that guilty sinners might be reckoned as without sin, now chose to have the last word. In spite of the stone blocking the entrance to the tomb, in spite of the official seal upon the stone forbidding any to move it, in spite of armed soldiers standing at attention, the omnipotent God chose to raise up his Son from the dead, according to the promise of prophets. With the very earth trembling at the majesty of his power.
And there's so many of our young folks nowadays that are so happy they can't think about their souls. But I want you young people here tonight, you better start thinking about your soul. Don't let the devil tell you you ought to go through high school and college before you give your heart to God. But you may not make it through high school, and you may not never make it to college. And you